Okay, so we'll go ahead and we will get started. So first of all, thanks everyone for joining us and welcome to the second webinar of the Home Waste Audit. This is a collaborative science project hosted by us, the U of T trash team, but really fueled by you, our community. So over the last couple weeks, you took a deep dive, or we took a deep dive together into our waste bins. And so today we're going to take a deep dive into our data. Before we do, we have a few housekeeping things as well as some review to put all of your hard work in context. So first, just a quick reminder about who we are. My name is Chelsea Rockman. I'm one of the co-founders of the U of T trash team. I'm also an aquatic and marine ecologist at the University of Toronto. And my fun fact is that right now, estoy en la Ciudad de Mexico. So I'm calling in from Mexico City, where I'm here taking Spanish classes. So my New Year's resolution is being put into action. I'll be your MC tonight, so I'm going to also talk about the diversity of our waste streams and some of the data that you gave in the surveys, as well as the actual waste data that you shared. And I'll pass it over to Rafaela to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming today again. I'm Rafaela, co-founder of the U of T Trash team. I'm a social scientist. And a fun fact is that I have been to Latin America's biggest landfill. Actually, that's where I started work with waste and waste speakers. I went there as a student to talk with waste speakers many times. And that's where my passion came from. And today I will talk a little bit about the survey, the data, and also we will discuss a little bit of things that we learned throughout this process. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. And then finally, before we begin, it's important to recognize the history of the lands we call home. So for our team, and actually many of us in this room, will speak to the land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this is the meeting place of many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we are really grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. Okay, so just as a quick reminder, the objectives of our home waste audit are to learn about the waste streams in your municipality, meaning learn about the bins you have, recycling, landfill, organics, and what is the proper thing to put in each of them, as well as decreasing our own waste footprints and diverting waste away from our landfill, which might mean putting more in the recycle bin, or it might mean just reducing the items we use in general. All right, so the objectives of the webinar basically are to show the differences in our waste management, share the survey results about waste behaviors and literacy, and share the results showing our self-reported waste habits over the last 2 weeks. Everything will be anonymized, so we won't know who did what. We'll just know what happened overall. And of course, if you have questions anytime, please feel free to put these in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them in the chat in real time. But if we can't, because it's complex, we'll save them until the Q&A at the end. All right, so just as a little bit of a reminder about why we're here. So I'll talk a bit about the plastic pollution problem, and this is information we shared with you at the last webinar. So a predicted 23 million tons of plastic waste enters our oceans, our rivers, and our lakes every year. And if we continue business as usual, this could increase up to 90 million tons by 2030. We all know that plastic is a really persistent pollutant and it degrades slowly and accumulates in our environment. And plastic pollution can threaten wildlife through entanglement, through ingestion, and chemical contaminants. Last time we met, we also shared with you the different ways we think we can solve the problem. And this audit really focuses on the first two, reduce consumption and waste management. Within these, there are many, many ways to reduce our consumption and waste. First, we can reduce the materials we use by reducing consumption and reusing. Second, when we use materials destined to become waste, we can choose ones that fall into more sustainable waste management, meaning not the landfill. It's better if waste can be sent to recycling or compost, keeping it in a circular economy. And to do this, it's actually really important that we understand our waste stream. So as one of our first steps in this waste audit, we asked you to learn more about the management of the waste where you live. We did this for 2 reasons. One, to increase your waste literacy if you didn't know before. And 2, we wanted to be able to show you today the combined diversity of our waste streams, demonstrating why we think it's really important to learn about the waste in our own city, because they really, truly, generally are different. So in a minute, we're going to see how harmonized our waste streams are across the places in which we all live. And when they vary so much, it can lead to confusion, which we'll talk about. So before we share what we found, can anyone in the room tell us? You can do this with a raised hand and we'll turn on your volume, or you can turn on your own volume. We'll invite you to, or in the chat. Basically, can you share with us why knowing about waste management might help you reduce the waste you sent to landfill? In other words, did the survey or anything you learned help you think about how you can reduce the amount of waste you put in the waste that eventually goes in your black bin? Anyone want to share anything in the chat or with a raised hand? I see a raised hand. Christy, go ahead and turn on your microphone.
Yes, hello. I learned a lot by going to the website and reading what the Toronto recycling actually accepts. I had no idea, even though I had the poster on my wall of like the sorting, it was right there, right next to my bin, but I had no idea that you could put plastic bags and like soft plastic wrappings in the recycling. So I noticed a huge difference between week 1 and week 2. Once I read that on the Toronto website, that was like my huge learning through going through this exercise. So thank you so much. I'm definitely recycling a lot more now than I was before.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right. Well, thanks. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I think a lot of us can agree. I mean, we all did the home waste audit the first time we did this in 2020. We even learned something new. So let's look now at who actually participated in the study. So there were 15 people who actually like did the whole audit and sent in data. And you can see here that the people who did it this time were actually pretty close to each other. So we had people from Toronto, from Scarborough, from Markham, and from North York. So actually the data we're going to show you is that most of our waste here is fairly harmonized, but not perfectly, which is still interesting given how close we live. And so also for fun, we'll show you data from 2020 just to show you how different this can look. So first you can see who in our waste audit had pickup for landfill, recycling, and compost, as well as other, which could be yard waste, for example. So it's pretty common for everyone to have landfill waste curbside, at least within North America. And so seeing this was not a huge surprise. Everyone here also had recycling, and I think that's because we all are pretty local and it's pretty common in Ontario. And for organics, there was one participant who said that they didn't have it. And this might be due to living in an apartment complex or somewhere where it's not available, or maybe it even is available and people just aren't aware because it's not like curbside in front of their house. But I'd say overall, we're really lucky. We don't have to go further than our house to keep waste out of our landfill or our environment. And this is not the case all over the world. Sometimes you have to drive your own recycling to the recycling facility, which sometimes has a fee, and that's a barrier. And in some cases, landfill waste is not included, making it a real challenge to manage any waste sustainably. So we did an outreach program in a city in Ohio once, and a kid raised his hand and said, well, in my neighborhood, we don't have curbside for landfill, so we burn most of our waste. So we're all very lucky that we have this right here at home. Then we asked everybody, how does your city provide guidance on how to separate recycling? So what people can recycle is generally sorted by either the material type or by the product type. Here, most of it is by material type, which you can see in this picture. And this is what it is here where I live and where a lot of you live in the city of Toronto. Generally, recycling markets are actually based on the type of material, like the type of plastic, but providing people with product types likely makes it easier for it to be successful. And so that's one of the reasons why we see that here. Sometimes there are exceptions. For example, some of you may notice on the Waste Wizard that even though you can recycle certain types of plastic, if it is black, you cannot. And if you are wondering why, it is because sometimes recycling is sorted automated with a robot. And as the plastics move by, a laser pings it. And with a laser, sometimes it gets absorbed or it absorbs the black color and you can't actually see the material. So it's because it's hard for sorting. Okay. since we are all local, we'll actually have a look at what the Waste Wizard tells us for Toronto, and what it says about what you can recycle. So here you see a common 5 items, and you can see what is recyclable and what is not. So as Christy mentioned, we can recycle plastic bags. We can also recycle styrofoam as long as it's clean. And believe it or not, we can recycle plastic cutlery, which is sort of surprising because it is quite small. We cannot recycle straws, and we also cannot recycle black plastic. However, in Markham, you can. And so that in our data set, we actually had 1 out of 15 for that. But so you can really kind of see how waste varies in different places. We wanted to show you the data from 2020. So here we had participants from several locations across the US and Canada. So within Canada, we had people from Toronto, Etobicoke, King City, Ottawa, Sauk, and Vancouver. And within the US, people were from Beaufort and Hyattsville. So this spanned 2 countries, 4 provinces and states, and 8 cities, with a similar number of people submitting. So again, around 15. And so at first glance, you might say, well, these places really don't look that far away. How different can the waste management be? And then when I show you those same 5 items, you can see that there was variation in who could recycle what. So only 1 out of 15, actually similar to here, could recycle black plastic. About 2/3 could recycle plastic bags, similar with styrofoam. Nobody straws, again, that's common. And about half could recycle this plastic cutlery. So as another question, I want to ask, why do we think waste harmonization is useful? So why might having waste harmonized across locations increase the recycling rate? So you might remember from last time that Hannah told us that our recycling rate is somewhere between 9 and 11%. And so why might waste harmonization help? And while you're thinking about that and typing in the chat or raising your hand, I'll tell you that Ontario is working on doing just this for our province right now, which is great. So why do we think it would make a difference? Yeah, Audrey, go ahead. Audrey, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. You are unmuted. I can't hear you. Audrey, I'm really sorry we can't hear you, but I can see that you are unmuted. But I do see some answers in the chat, and that is that, first of all, it's a lot easier to keep the rules straight, and I think that's true. It's easier for more clearer communication, and it causes less confusion. And harmonization for ourselves. Thank you, Audrey. Audrey's going to go ahead and type. And I'll say that we hear this a lot, like, we'll go give public presentations at a forum and people in the audience will say, it's hard for me to trust recycling when I know that these rules vary across the different cities I've lived in. So sometimes it can also kind of cause this decrease in trust. And Audrey says, I'm from Toronto originally, but moved to Kingston. The differences are subtle, but it's hard to remember. Yeah, the exact differences, exactly. So it just would be nice if we could harmonize, and across Ontario is great. Across Canada would be even better. Awesome. Okay, so over to Rafaela, who's going to share some more results from the surveys you all replied to.
Awesome, thanks, Charles. So one of the things that, one of the questions we ask you during our survey focus on whether you learn something new regarding your local waste streams and taking the survey. And one of the participants already said that she learned a couple of things. And I'm very happy to report that 6% of the participants learned something new during this time. And we would love to share a little bit about your comments. So one of the comments was also what our participants said, that they learn a little bit more about our waste streams and where items go to recycle or garbage or compost. And this is amazing because it's exactly like one of the main goals of this Waste Home Audit. We want you to dig in and look, especially if you're here in Toronto, or looking, you can have the the Waste Wizard, our friend. We use it a lot. I still use a lot. Every time that you need something, I don't know, I just go and Google it. And so it's really handy that we have this opportunity. So it's great that you all try and look into your waste management in the city. And then more specific, some participants from Toronto learned that black plastics, as Chelsea mentioned, can go to recycling. And then bags, plastic bags, other colors of plastic bags, and styrofoam can be recycled. And then specifically about compost, this is also something that every year participants, they don't know. And the compost plastic, it's actually garbage. So all materials that it's labeled as compostable here in the city of Toronto goes to garbage instead of compost. The same for wooden chopsticks, cutleries, everything that is wood also go to compost, and diapers and cough filter that people didn't know that goes to the green bin. So those are one of the things that you learned. And I really hope that you can continue looking Home Waste looking into the websites and looking into if you're here in Toronto, the Waste Wizard. If you're in the city, in your city, you can try and look in more information. I was actually seeing Mark Hunt. They have a very good website and they have all the information, pictures. It's really straightforward. So thanks for sharing this with us. And this year we are doing something different. Usually we have a survey that we ask a lot of questions because we want to learn with you as well. It's an opportunity for you to share what you learned, ways that what was difficult or easy for you to change throughout the Home Waste Audit. And this year we decided to do something different. So we have a couple of questions on the Mentimeter, and you can join it in 3 different ways. I think Susan probably put in the link in our website. So you can use the link if you prefer, or you can use the QR code, or you just type menti.com and then use the code. I will give you a couple of minutes for all of you to get into that. And I hope we can all work. Okay, I will now share my screen. Hopefully you all can see it. If you are not in the Mentimeter, please, you can, if you are having a difficult to access, you can type in the chat if you prefer. So one of the things that we ask you is, what was the easiest change you made throughout the Home Waste Audit? One participant said, eat less. Another one, that's a very a nice one. Maybe I I needed this. I put a sign on my mailbox saying no junk mail, please. That's very handy. I think Chelsea did that one year and it's being helpful for her. And then recycling more soft plastics. Okay, biodegradable plastics in the garbage. That's also something that not a lot of people know. I use less takeaway food. That's amazing. And nowadays here in the city, if you are taking if you have takeouts, you can even order in a reusable takeouts. There are companies who are doing this right now in the city, like Supply, Muse, and other companies. So you can even ask that when you are ordering, especially if you're doing like Uber or things like that. All right, so thank you so much for sharing. And question for you, why was that so easy for you to share with to change? I feel like now that you learned that how things go in the right being, it's something that's gonna stick with you. But can you share a little bit more why that was easy for you? Why you just like now put it biodegradable plastic in the garbage or reusing more containers? I would love to hear. So especially like in the reusing, if you have any tips or things that you feel like other people will be glad to hear, you can share with us in the chat as well. Before my own eyes. Okay, if nobody want to share, that's okay. Washing and reusing containers is pretty easy. Yes, it is true, and I'm doing this right now. The only problem when you start to sometimes you have like a lot of containers, and then it's like, oh my gosh, what do you have? What can I do with that? All right. So thank you. So I will go to the next question then. Thanks for sharing. Oh, we have more. Oh, okay. Sorry. We have more thing. People sharing things. Less sorting required than I thought, and I had been optimistic about what goes in the recycling, so I was taking everything apart. Oh, that's okay. That's great to hear. And I eat less since it reduces my desire, also benefits my health. That's good. That's true. All right. Thanks for sharing that with us. I appreciate it. Oh, when I send or drop off food to a friend, I use those containers and don't need them back. Oh, that's a great tip. I do that as well. So I have a lot of containers. So if we have leftovers in a party or whatever it is, people can bring it home with them. That's a amazing tip. All right, so we'll go to the next question then. What was the most difficult change you made throughout the home waste audit? And then we will open the mic for you if you want to share why that was so difficult. Eating less candy with single-use packaging. All right, so I'll give more time for people, and then we can discuss. Okay, so one participant said that finding products with less packaging, in this case candy, with less single-use packaging, is really hard. And then another one, try to get partners to participate as much as I was in the audit. That's something we see a lot, and it is a struggle when we live with other people in a household. So we need to work together, not only for doing the home waste audit, but start to think differently, or start to be think what you want to avoid and how you want to work together as a group. So it's always a struggle, and maybe you can share later if you have any tips how you are doing and manage this with your partner. Counting everything. I know that it is a tedious, and it's a lot of things to count, but I hope you I know that was difficult, but I hope you like it, enjoy the results, and see how much you were producing, and maybe you got something that you were not expecting as a result. Avoid prepared meals. Yes, I know that sometimes we are very busy, and it's hard to think, and now that you have to prepare more meals because it comes with less packaging, is also something that we need to organize ourselves to do it. Understanding that just because it says it's a recyclable on the product doesn't mean it is in Toronto. Yes, that's true. And everywhere you go, you will find, as Chelsea mentioned, it can be different. The waste management, and remembering to record all waste as it went. Yes, it is also true for when you're counting tally. All right, so if someone would like to share why was this difficult, if there is something else that we should know, you can type in the chat, or unmute yourself and you can share. Otherwise, I will move to the next one, the last question. No? All right. Next one, the last one, and that's also my favorite question. What's your favorite waste reduction tip that you learned? And doesn't need to be the one that we share, but something that you saw. If you'd like to share with us, it's a great opportunity so we can all take the best and improve and learn more. I always like to learn with other people what they are doing. So you can unmute yourself or type in the chat. Or type here, of course. Don't buy overpacked food. Yes, and overpacked, it's something that it's not always up to us, but when you go to a grocery, sometimes we can choose the same product, but just based in different packagings, or go to a bulk if you can do it that. Reusing my garbage bags to not add more garbage when I combine. Oh, that's amazing. Reusing products, buy things that come in glass or cardboard instead of plastic. That also helps. You can replace the materials and then reuse that. I bring my own reusable products back to the supermarket so I don't have to use their plastic bags. Yes, that's something that is just change our routine, what we used to do, and put more bags in a backpack so you can even when you are not prepared for it, you're not expecting going to the grocery, you always have some bags with you that will help you. Using fabric bags to buy fruits and vegetables at superstore. Amazing, that's a good one. All right. Is there anyone else want to share a favorite tip? That someone might not know. All right, so I think that's it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I hopefully, if you have any even website, something that you learn that you feel like other people here would be interested, please type in the chat and we can all look it after. Okay, so Chelsea, you can share, I think, your screen. Go back to the data because we still have a lot of data that we want to share with you.
Okay, can you all see the screen again?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so now we've gone through the survey responses. Well, mostly, I'm going to show you one more, but we're going to show the actual waste data itself. So this includes all the items you counted and noted down on your data sheets that were submitted to us. So thanks again for doing that. I know it can be a nuisance, but I promise you getting to see it all together makes it worth it. So one of the first questions we asked participants in the survey was, how many items of trash do you estimate your household produces in 1 week from both recycling and landfill waste? And I love this question because even when we did the waste audit, we were incredibly wrong. So for this question, most of the respondents estimated that they threw away between 51 and 100 items. And actually quite a few, also a third, suggested 0 to 50 items. So let's see what actually happened. When we compare this to the results from week 1, so here you're seeing what people suggested on the left and what actually happened on the right, we can see that most of the households actually threw away over 150 items per week, and actually very few 0 to 50. And this is pretty common. We've done the waste audit now for several years. And like I said, we did it ourselves, and we're always really surprised at just how much waste we make. So if we're not keeping track of our waste on a daily basis, we often have no idea like how many bits of garbage we can throw in the garbage can every day. So just this exercise is kind of eye-opening. And I actually think somebody wrote that in the chat a little bit ago. Okay, so then let's see kind of how much are we putting in our landfill and how much are we putting in our recycling. So this shows that for each household anonymized as a letter. And this is for week 1. So this is the week 1 baseline data. So here you can see some houses send more to the landfill, in fact, most, and others send more to recycling. And our goal over the next week, which I'm about to show you, was basically to reduce the amount going to landfill, which may or may not increase the amount going to recycling, just depending on how people change their habits. So here we have the overall results from the home waste audit. So the landfill waste is in gray, the recycling waste is in blue, and the total waste, so the combined, is in orange. The points on the graph show average household waste items per week and how this changed between week 1 and week 2. So overall, the amount of waste items produced per household decreased between week 1 and 2, which is great, from an average of 137 items per week to 118 items per week. And so we can see from the results for recycling and landfill that this is mostly due to a decrease in waste in general, because our recycling waste actually didn't really change that much. So this is actually an ideal result. So kudos to everyone here, as our objectives were actually met to decrease our waste. And so in just 1 week, we collectively decreased our household waste, recycling and landfill by an average of 19 items per week. And for landfill alone, we reduced by an average of 20 items per week. So here I just want to show you how even the smallest change can have a huge collective impact. So if collectively our 15 households continued the same waste habits over an entire year, this would equate to more than 15,000 items less. So we would reduce the amount of items going to landfill by more than 15,000 items. And so imagine what would happen over an entire city or over an entire country. I think it's easy with this issue of plastic pollution to get bogged down and how can my one little change make a difference? And here's a way to show you how. Okay, so then you might remember that we asked you questions about the specific materials that you were using and wasting. So here you can see that the data for the different materials: plastic, paper, metal, glass, and other, as well as mixed materials. So within landfill waste, the most common items thrown away in week 1 was plastic. That's also really normal over the years. And this averaged at 33 items a week in week 1 and dropped to 27 in week 2. The second most common was paper, and then mixed materials. Paper items decreased between weeks 1 and 2, which could be that less paper items were used or that more went into recycling. And then the mixed materials are really, really common in our day-to-day lives. They're hard to get rid of and they are difficult to recycle. But the one thing we saw, which was awesome, is that in week 2, and actually a lot in week 1, these items were going in the landfill bin and not recycling. So people were wasting properly, which is awesome. So before I go to the next slide, I want to hear some guesses about what you might think might be there. So I'm about to show you what was the most popular item or the most common item that went to landfill during week 1. So go ahead and type in the chat. What do you think, maybe based on your own data or just an inkling? What's the most common plastic item that went in? So not plastic in general, but like the most common plastic item. Any guesses? Yeah, wrappers is a great guess. I believe that is correct. Soft plastic packaging, which is often food wrappers and other wrappers in general, they are hard to get rid of. Also, dental floss is really common, hard plastic packaging, stickers like on fruit, plastic bags, and Band-Aids. I don't know that usually pops up on our talk, so hopefully whoever had a lot is okay. The next one I'll show you is for mixed materials. So here's just what's common for mixed materials. So these plastic foil wrappers are incredibly common. Cotton swabs, in some countries, they've gotten rid of the plastic handle. In other places, they haven't, and even some brands. Diapers is a tough one. Yogurt cup seals, coated paper, and wipes, our favorite. Okay. All right, so then within recycling waste, here you can see the most common material types throughout the waste audit, and here it's paper. So starting an average of 26 items per week and increasing to 35 items per week in week 2. On the lower end of the scale for recycling waste is glass, mixed material, and other. So if you want to have another guess, what do you think was the most common paper item in week 1 of the audit? The most common paper item. This actually, the answer kind of surprised us. And so we're gonna, junk mail. So junk mail might have been what it was. The way it was written was as scrap paper. So there was 166 items thrown away throughout the audit. Beyond that, there's like flyers and receipts and envelopes and other types of items. So we were exam paper. We were kind of curious, what was this scrap paper? So was it like, and people can write in the chat, was this paper you had written on? Was it old mail that you used as scrap paper? Was it these pesky flyers where we can put like no junk mail, please, on our mailboxes? What was the scrap paper? Usually people tell us it's paper, but scrap paper usually means like you've reused paper. So we were kind of curious what this was. Exam paper. I throw away a lot of exam paper every year as scrap paper as a professor. So that one makes me smile. Okay, I will move on. And here's for plastics going into the landfill. So mostly hard plastic packaging, soft plastic packaging, drink bottles, plastic bags, and plastic cups. Oh, that's awesome, Linda. Yeah, we try to do that in our home too. I just don't know if we make enough to make a dent. Okay, awesome. So overall, our overarching conclusions is basically most people learn something new about waste management, which is generally true. Most participants underestimated their weekly household waste, but the most exciting change is that we really made a huge difference in just 1 week. We used to do the home waste audit actually for 4 weeks. This is the first time we've trialed 2 weeks. We don't usually see such a huge change in week 2 and 3, and we start to see the change after week 4. So we're going to actually turn it to Q&A right now, and I'd be happy to take any questions about any of the data that we shared, but also we'd love to hear feedback on what did you think about the 2 weeks. I know you haven't done the 4 weeks, but we'll try to think in the future, do we stick with 2 or do we go back to 4? So any suggestions, any questions, go ahead and raise your hand or type them in the chat. Yeah, Christy, I kind of agree. I think 2 weeks is also more manageable. Another thing we can say is that we see more people drop out after. We usually have more surveys, and so we have a survey at week 2 and a survey at week 4, and we see more people do that 2-week survey than week 4. So I think it's just the people lose stamina when you have it that long. Two weeks felt like plenty. Yeah, especially when you're counting your garbage. Any other comments or questions? You know, we've already asked you to share a lot throughout, so if not, that's okay too. Sure, Audrey, go ahead. You can type it or you can try to chat. I don't know why we couldn't hear you last time, but if you want to give it another try, go ahead. Yeah, while Audrey's talking, I'll say, I think that looking for ways to avoid plastic packaging, it's tough. I think that's what people often find is the hardest thing because, you know, I'll admit I was the one that wrote about candy in there, and I love candy, and I don't know how to buy it in a way that's not single-use plastic packaging. So some of this is changes that are beyond our own behavior and asking governments or industry to make changes. The thin plastic is bendy packaging, but is brittle, rippable. Is that, yeah, I think the answer there. So Audrey, are you in Toronto? In Toronto, the answer there is it's not recyclable. Oh, are you in Markham? Or you're in Kingston? That's right, you're in Kingston now. So I don't know for you, but in Toronto, no, it has to be like kind of stretchy. If it breaks easy, then it's not recyclable. And no worries, Audrey, it happens to us all the time. Yeah, so I'm not sure about Kingston. We'd have to look that up. Does Kingston have a waste wizard?
Oh, that's a great question.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, ours is an app too. So maybe the app can help you. And for us, like if the app doesn't say specifically, you can actually ask a question and a real person can tell you the answer. So yeah. Thanks, Susan. Okay. Anything else before we just have a few more slides as a wrap up? Going once, going twice.
I also
All
want
right.
to share, if we don't have questions, I also want to share something that we have a pilot project that we are testing reusable opportunities in restaurants and coffee shops. And one of the things is restaurants accepting BIO, bring your own container, bring your own cups. So next time that you're going to a coffee shop and you're planning to go, you already know you can bring your mug, and then and you don't need to use cups, single-use cups. The same for restaurants. If you are ordering food now, you can maybe order in a reusable container, and that would help you with the takeout, single-use takeout. So yeah, that's one of the things that we are doing here, trying to understand barriers and challenge and opportunities for restaurants. So if you want to help a restaurant and try to reduce your single use, you can start with restaurants and coffee shops as well.
Yeah, it's true, Linda. But I think they've all started taking them back, hopefully.
Oh
Yeah,
yes,
during the
but now
pandemic, it was
yes,
hard.
it's true. But now the city is also having a new policy that business this year, the restaurants and coffee shops, they will need to start to accept clean cups and reusable cups from customers. So yeah, that now you can, Linda, you can start to bring your cup again. As long as clean, it is reusable, you can bring your own.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, I'll continue on just for the last few slides. One is just that it was great having each of you participate, and we've actually made these little certificates, and so we're going to email everyone a copy of your own certificate that you can display wherever you may or may not want to. So congrats on officially being a home waste literacy expert. And finally, we hope that the waste reduction doesn't have to end here. So hopefully you'll continue to kind of think about ways and be motivated to continue to reduce the amount of waste that you put in your bin, even if you don't have to count it anymore. So for further information about waste reduction tips, we have several on our website. There's also more that we post on social media and lots of other things on the internet. And so there's many, many ways in which you can continue every day to make a difference. And so with that, I will thank you for joining. Please feel free to visit our website, follow along in our newsletter. We can send you some of the more activities that we have going on, including cleanup, since many of you are local. So hopefully we'll get to see you there. Oh, and Alice, I'm an East Ender too. So maybe I see you on the street sometimes. I live very close to Bear Market. Like I could catapult there.
Yes, they are.
Thanks, everyone. Have an excellent night. And thank you for participating. This is a huge effort, so we really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. And if you have extra tips and you want to share with us in the future, we always want to include and put in more things in our website. So if you have any tips that it's relevant for other people to know, share with us, and we'll be happy to put in our website. Thank you.